So President Biden reversing course and lifting restrictions on Ukraine's use of U.S.-provided weapons deep inside Russian territory. For the first time, Biden is giving Ukrainian forces the green light to actually strike Russia with long-range American missiles. That move coming after months of lobbying by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and with major changes on the horizon once President-elect Trump takes office. Our Patrick Reevell is in Ukraine. So, Patrick, let's talk about how big of an impact this could make on the war.
Hi, Kira. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's certainly a significant decision by President Biden to essentially reverse his opposition to over a year of Ukrainian requests to use these long-range ATACMS missiles. But there is a caveat. We know from our reporting that for the time being, at least, the focus of this authority to start striking inside Russia is limited to the Kursk region, which is the border region, the Russian border region that Ukraine managed to take a foothold in with its own offensive back in August, and where now Russia has been trying to push Ukraine out of with a major new offensive, including with thousands of North Korean troops. And it's our understanding that the arrival of the North Korean troops was a significant factor, perhaps the crucial factor, in persuading the Biden administration to finally drop its opposition to allowing Ukraine to use these missiles. And as we understand it from most military experts, they believe, of course, it will be useful to Ukraine, it will be helpful to them in holding on to Kursk, but it will ultimately still be limited. And what we hear from Ukrainian officials is that it is still short of what Ukraine had been hoping. We understand that there are hundreds of potential targets across the border in other areas of Russia that they would like to be able to hit, but which they, at the moment, it seems unlikely they would be able to. The question, of course, is what is Russia going to do? There was concern, obviously, among the Biden administration that there would be some kind of retaliation over this. This is why they didn't want to do this in the first place. But what that type of retaliation will be, we don't yet know. Most experts think it will likely be more some kind of asymmetric response. Today we've heard from the Kremlin saying that this decision pours fuel on the fire of the conflict and that it's another spiral of escalation. We've also heard a senior Russian official say that they will be forced to respond. Ukraine previously has said that ultimately Russia is largely bluffing, and they believe that the US and the Biden administration has been too timid throughout this war. But I guess we will see how this goes, Kira.
All right, Patrick Reevell. Thank you. Someone else who's watching how it's going to go is someone who knows the region extremely well. Let's take it to former U.S. Ambassador of Ukraine, Bill Taylor now. Bill, good to see you. Let's talk about why would the Biden administration make this move now? And what does it mean for Ukraine's military capabilities?
Well, Kira, it clearly increases Ukraine's military capabilities, and now's a good time to do it. They should have done it earlier, as you've reported, but the arrival now on the battlefield of North Korean troops is another indication of the seriousness of this issue. And the Biden administration has decided to counter that. The United States is countering this move by the Russians to bring in the North Koreans. And this does give the Ukrainians the ability to fire deep into Russia to disrupt these moves by the Russians and the North Koreans.
So do you think we could soon see other allies giving similar permission to use long-range missiles?
I do. The French and the British have held off on giving the Ukrainians the permission to use their Scalp and their Storm Shadows, which are the equivalents of our ATACMS. And now that the Biden administration has given the green light, I would surely expect the French and the British to give the green light. And I think there's a decent chance, Kira, that the Germans will decide to provide their even longer range missiles. They call them the Taurus. And those missiles, the Taurus, the Germans have even longer range than the ATACMS. So this could be a significant increase in the Ukrainian capabilities.
So if all these other allied countries get involved and we see more long-range missiles, and then you've got President-elect Trump saying, he's going to end this war as soon as he takes office, do you see something finally happening here? Do you see an end in sight to this invasion in Ukraine?
Well, the end will come when the Ukrainians have demonstrated to the Russians with these missiles and other actions that the Russians can't win. This is an indication that the United States continues to back Ukraine, and we will see shortly, as you've just described, the Europeans saying the same thing. The Ukrainians have given every indication they're going to continue to fight. When the Russians understand they cannot win, then that will bring an end to this war.
Well, the Kremlin says that this move definitely raises the temperature in the region. Are they right, or are they going down?
So the Kremlin has said every time there's a big decision that the United States or others, NATO allies, have had to make in terms of what kinds of facilities, what kinds of weapons, what kinds of ammunition, what kinds of authorities, what kind of permissions, every time there's been a big decision, the Russians have said, you better not do it, you better not do it, or else we're going to be doing something. And they've never done it. So the Ukrainians recognize that. The Biden administration apparently has recognized that, and they're taking these decisions now in spite of this latest version of these threats from the Russians.
Taking advantage of the moment. Former ambassador to Ukraine, Bill Taylor. Always good to see you, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara.